Well, hello everybody, Newbornkilik here, welcoming you back to another awesome Zelda Theory. If you saw last episode, you would know that we are on a Master Sword kick. We're going to be talking about the Master Sword for quite some time, and this episode is no different. So here I would like to present to you the second installment in the super amazing Master Sword extravaganza thing that I'm making up on the spot right now. But yes, today we're going to be talking about the Master Sword, and more specifically, one of the very specific interactions that the Master Sword has in Breath of the Wild. Real quick before we get started, I just want to ask, politely of course, if you do happen to enjoy the video, please consider dropping it a like, and if you don't enjoy the video, feel free to leave some constructive criticism in the comments below. So today we're going to be talking about the Master Sword and how in Breath of the Wild the Master Sword will actually straight up kill Link. This is a huge deal, okay? Think about that. The Master Sword, the Blade of Evil's Bane, is literally killing Link. There are a lot of implications that kind of go with this idea of the Master Sword eliminating Link. If the Master Sword eliminates Link, that means Calamity Ganon will 100% succeed in his mission to take over all of Hyrule. As we see in the events of Breath of the Wild, Calamity Ganon is really wearing down on Zelda and she can't hold him much longer. So, the fact that the Master Sword would kill Link is a huge deal. I need to drive that home. But now let's actually kind of take a look at why the Master Sword might kill Link. So there are a couple different ideas, and I actually really love theorizing this kind of stuff because there's really no proof one way or the other as to why this happens in this game. All we have are ideas to go off of. So here are some of the ideas that I've come up with, and of course I do hope that you will enjoy them. But before we get into any of these theories, I need to just preface this with an excerpt from A Link to the Past. I believe it was in the manual, if I'm not mistaken. It says as follows: "It was so powerful that only one who was pure of heart," that one's important, "and strong of body could wield it." Of course, they are talking about the Master Sword. So with this in mind, we have a couple different ideas that we can actually use this information and pull from some other games. So let's say theoretically that the sages, the earth and wind sages, just stop praying to the blade. You need to remember that Fi still exists within the blade. She's always been there and she probably always will be there. So one of the ideas that I rather like is that the sages kind of stopped praying to the Master Sword, so it needed life force, it needed energy before it could be, fully ready to go, fully activated. Even in Breath of the Wild, it's not fully activated, but it needed energy to be activated. And we'll talk as to why this actually works out for multiple reasons a little bit later on. So, Link comes up to the Master Sword, starts trying to pull it out. Alright, you want to pull the Master Sword out? I'm going to need some energy, buddy. So it actually takes Link's life force to replenish its own supplies. Or I guess Fi does at this point. This is kind of helped out by the fact that the Master Sword essentially, quote-unquote, turns on when evil is nearby. I mean, it could see that this is a great opportunity for feeding. It would make sense that Fi wouldn't want to just go all bloodthirsty and just start eliminating people to sustain herself, as she is, in essence, that we see, of course, a positive being. She is on the good side of the spectrum of characters. So the fact that the sages may no longer be praying to the blade is also kind of supported by the fact that this is the first time we ever see the Master Sword with any sort of rust or damage done to the Master Sword. So this kind of hints that maybe the sages were actually eliminated before the final assault on Calamity Ganon. How this happened is anyone's guess, honestly, but then again, how it happens in Wind Waker is anyone's guess. I mean, if you think about Breath of the Wild, he basically just poofed out some magic evil juice and all of a sudden, all of the Sheikah technology was turned against them. So it's not terribly crazy to think that maybe he created something to eliminate these sages before the fight, ergo weakening the Master Sword. Actually, that may have been part of the reason why Link fell in the first place, which leads nicely into the next topic, and that's that maybe Link was deemed unworthy after failing to defeat Calamity Ganon, and the sword essentially is rejecting him at this point. Now obviously, it takes him back eventually. Maybe he's actually stronger now than he was 100 years ago. You know, we have a lot of hearts, we've been playing a lot, we're having a great time, we've sunk a lot of hours into it, but yes, maybe he's actually stronger at this point and Fee's like, alright, we'll give it another shot. I actually rather like this idea. I rather like the idea that the sword has rejected Link in some capacity. It opens up the door for kind of an anti-hero vibe and, you know, some nice, real spooky creepypastas or whatever about how the hero suddenly turned evil or something. I'm throwing it out there like that, but I rather like this idea. Kind of touching on the idea that we touched earlier, it's also possible that maybe the sword was still recovering and actually needed Link's life force to even bring it up to a working sword of order. When we see Master Sword before Link takes it out of the pedestal, it looks pretty good, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is even in working order. You know, it could still be heavily damaged on the inside. It could be no more than a normal blade at that point. Just because it looks good doesn't necessarily mean it is good. And in Breath of the Wild, through the trials of the Master Sword, you actually unlock its full potential, so it's not terribly unreasonable to think that the Master Sword itself is already not at 100% power when Link pulls it out, because we clearly see that it's not, and maybe before he pulls it out, it's doing even worse. And then we have kind of the third set of theories or ideas, and that's that maybe Link isn't exactly the amazing hero that we all believe him to be. Now I know what you're thinking. He's a hero of legend. His bloodline has passed down, and he is the new Link. He's a great guy, of course. But take into consideration, he is the first Link that actually failed against Ganondorf. He's the one that failed in his mission, well, and lived to tell the tale. During the timeline split of Ocarina of Time, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I recommend taking a look at that. There is a Hero of Time that actually failed in eliminating Ganondorf, or Ganon, I suppose at that point, but he did not live after that. He himself was killed, or so we assume anyway. It's possible that Link harbors some kind of resentment in his soul towards Ganondorf, and of course there's some kind of resentment, but I mean like resentment, like almost not pure intentions. If you remember earlier, we did say in that little excerpt there from A Link to the Past, it was so powerful that only one who was pure of heart. Possible that maybe Link's heart was actually tainted at some point during this. Another idea, and I like this idea, but it's kind of in that anti-hero way, it doesn't make much sense as far as the timeline. Assuming that Breath of the Wild would take place after Twilight Princess, which we don't really know where it fits into the timeline, but if it was after Twilight Princess, this might work out. Could be that maybe the bloodline was actually tainted during the events of Twilight Princess. If you remember, Link had this sharp piece of Twilight shoved into his face. He was cursed. He had a, I believe they called it a veil of darkness around him almost, while he had this shoved into his skull. So it's possible that maybe some of that is still technically in there, or maybe it did some weird magic to the bloodline, and now we have problems suddenly. Strange theory, doesn't make much sense, but it was fun and I wanted to throw it out there anyway. And finally we have our last theory, not really the best one by chance, but it does seem like maybe it is the most likely of all of them. Except for the fact that it's probably just a game design choice and really doesn't hold any sort of weight in the lore. And that is that the Master Sword draining the energy of the person trying to pull it from the pedestal is an additional safeguard against those who might try to destroy the sword while it is in its weakened state. Yes, it is located in the Lost Woods in Breath of the Wild. Yes, the Kokiri are present, guarding the sword. Yes, the Great Deku Tree is guarding the sword. What are they gonna do about it? Ganondorf has already proven that he's more than capable, even in his weakened state, before he has the Triforce, of cursing the Great Deku Tree. As we see in the events of Ocarina of Time, there's nothing that the Great Deku Tree or any of those little Kokiri children would be able to do to stop the Master Sword from being destroyed. Of course, we don't know, maybe they're all Master Swords, but I'm doubting that very much so. After all, wood weapons, not that effective versus metal weapons. And hey, worst case scenario, fire works pretty well against them. But yes, this idea has been kind of bothering me for a very long time. It just doesn't make any sense. Why would the Master Sword even risk killing Link even though he's weak. I mean, if he doesn't need to have the Master Sword, then just don't come out. But yes, so that's kind of the significance of that event in Breath of the Wild. Let me know what you think of these ideas down below, and if you have any ideas of your own, please don't hesitate to let me know. Happy to hear about them, and of course, if you did end up enjoying the video, please leave a like or subscribe. I make these Zelda theories every now and then, but I also do some other gaming content that is well worth your time in my opinion. But anyway, I am Newbornkilik, and I will see you in the next one. I'm out.